Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Suzanne Dibble here, data protection law expert, coming to you raw and uncut on a Friday night after I've been to the pub for some drinks with my friends. But fear not, I knew I had this video to do, so I drove, I didn't drink, and I'm here talking to you today about GDPR and Facebook. I've seen quite a few questions in the group about what's going on with Facebook, so I found the answer and I'm going to tell you. Now, Facebook have actually put together a really helpful page that tells us exactly what the position is, and I'll post that in the links to this video. But in summary, they are on it. They have an exceptionally large team working on GDPR compliance, and quoting from their page, our GDPR preparations are well underway, supported by the largest cross-functional team in Facebook's history. We're also expanding our Dublin-led data protection team, which is leading these efforts. So it tells you the sort of generals of all that, and then it breaks it down into what we need to be thinking about in terms of Facebook's different services, including advertising and things like that. So it talks about who's a data controller and who's a data processor, and I think I've seen questions in the group about that very question. So you are the data controller when you decide the purposes and means of any processing of data. Well, that's just the general position. And it's the same, the definition for data processor is when you process personal data on behalf of a data controller. So again, the same definition as what I've been talking about. The interesting bit is, while Facebook operates the majority of its services as data controller, there are some instances in which they operate as a processor when working with businesses and other third parties. When Facebook is operating as a data processor, acting on your behalf, your business needs to have your own legal basis to process and share the data with us. And they give some examples. And the examples are custom audiences. It says when we match your CRM data to our user database and create a custom audience for your advertising campaigns, we are the data processor, as you would expect. Measurement and analytics. Facebook process data on your behalf in order to do that, so they're the processor again there. And workplace premium, never heard of that, clearly need to up my Facebook game, because I've not even heard of that. Workplace Premium allows you to collaborate with your colleagues using Facebook's tools. We process the personal data as a data processor in order to provide this service to you. So there's just some examples there where they are the processor. Let me just find the bit about where they are actually the controller. Yeah, so Facebook is a data controller when they use their own data to show your adverts to people. So, for example, if they're using Facebook users' interests, for example, in order to decide who to show your advert to, then they're being a data controller in that instance. Okay, but have a look at this. There's some other examples as to when they're a data processor and when they're a data controller. On the subject of transfers, so if you've watched any of my videos in the training, you'll know that transfers outside of the EEA are generally prohibited unless they fall into a category where you are permitted to transfer it. And one of those is being part of the Privacy Shield. Facebook is certified under the Privacy Shield. So hence you know that you can transfer data to Facebook if it's an entity outside of the EEA that is doing the processing. Advertiser terms. So where Facebook provides services to EU partners as a data processor on their behalf, we'll ensure that we comply with specific requirements for data processors. And they'll refresh any necessary contractual obligations in order to align with GDPR. And where they appoint parties to act as data processor on Facebook's behalf, they'll also ensure that they've got appropriate terms in place. Where they act as data processor on an advertiser's behalf, then they're relying on the advertiser's legal basis as data controller for the processing of the data. So where you're the data controller, i.e. you're the advertiser on Facebook, then you need to have the legal basis as data controller for the processing of that data, which is what you would expect the position to be. So let's just go through this in a little bit more detail. Okay, so in most cases, Facebook will be a data controller. And they handle personal data as described in their data policy, and there is a link to that data policy. So Facebook is the data controller of all on Facebook activity. Affiliates such as WhatsApp, Oculus and Instagram each handle personal data as described in their own privacy policies. And Facebook will ensure that services across the Facebook companies align with GDPR, which may involve making new tools available to users and reviewing existing tools to make sure that they honour their obligations. So I think that they are taking this very seriously. In certain instances, Facebook acts as a data processor on behalf of advertisers, i.e. us business owners advertising with them, or business partners, such as for data file custom audiences and workplace premium, which, like I've already said. Blah, blah, blah. So what else do I need to tell you? Okay, so this is a bit more detail about ads. It says, if an ad is placed on Facebook using personal information provided by advertisers, i.e. us, whose consent will you rely on for this? So this is where we've uploaded our data into Facebook for the advertising. So if we're using custom audiences to reach customers, and we're providing EU users personal data to do that, then Facebook's acting as data processor, we're the data controller, and we have to ensure compliance for processing in order for Facebook to be able to provide that service to us. So again, that's what you would expect to be the position. We need to make sure that we're complying with GDPR if we are uploading that list of data up to Facebook. We need to make sure that we've adhered to the data protection principles, that we've collected that data fairly and transparently, that that data is, that we're not doing anything with that data that we shouldn't be, etc. Okay, what else do I need to tell you? We've talked about transfers. Okay, how will data file custom audiences be affected by GDPR? And will advertisers need to make any changes on their end in order to continue using this product? Advertisers today act as the data controller of any customer lists uploaded as part of data file custom audiences, and they will continue to do this under GDPR. They're responsible for ensuring compliance with applicable law for using that data. This means that you must have a clear legal basis for collecting the data, and we know what that is. I've talked about this many times before. That's things like consent, contractual necessity, legitimate interests. As the data processor on your behalf, Facebook's processing of the hashed data that you upload and use to generate custom audiences is legalised by the relevant legal basis that you rely on as a data controller. Note that Facebook's terms require advertisers to ensure that they have provided appropriate notice to and secured any necessary consent from people. Okay, so if you're relying on consent as your legal basis to process that data, i.e. the data that you've uploaded to custom audiences, this consent must conform with the requirements under GDPR where applicable. Okay, so in the privacy policy, in the GDPR pack, if you haven't yet bought that, go check that out. The details for that are in the pinned post. It's still at the introductory price of £97. That's going to be going up on the 29th of March. But in there is your fully compliant privacy policy, and in there it's quite lengthy now because of all the things that GDPR says that you have to have in your privacy policy. But one of those is, what are you doing with the data, and if you are uploading it to custom audiences, for example, then that needs to be set out in that privacy policy. How will lead ads be affected by GDPR? In the case of lead ads, both Facebook and the business are data controllers. So both parties are responsible for ensuring compliance by providing notice and establishing a legal basis for processing the data provided by a user. We're currently reviewing our disclosures to determine whether any changes need to be made regarding user consent to sending their data to the advertiser and further processing by the advertiser. Our team will keep you updated if any changes arise from this review. So watch this space, essentially, for anyone doing lead ads. And I think finally, the final bit I shall mention on this video, but if this is an area of interest for you, then please do go click on the link that I've posted in the comments and you can read more. The final question is, how will Facebook recertify permissions of its community to continue to advertise on the platform? And it says, Facebook is in the process of updating its terms and policies in connection with GDPR. Where relevant to the particular data processing, Facebook will ensure that it has an appropriate legal basis for that collection under the GDPR. So we can expect, if we've not seen it already, I'm sure some kind of pop-up or something that is very obvious that will request our consent, a GDPR compliant consent in order to allow Facebook to continue to advertise to us. Okay, so in summary, not much is going to change really. Facebook are working, absolutely working towards being compliant. I think they absolutely understand how important this is for them. And really, the thing to note is that when we're uploading data to Facebook, then we need to make sure that we have a legal ground for processing that if it's consent, it's GDPR compliant consent before we upload it to Facebook. Otherwise, they pretty much take care of everything. So there you go. Got any questions on that, let me know. I'll say I put the link to this page in the group. But anything that it's a bit late on a Friday night, so I've probably not thought of everything that you need to know there. But if you've got any questions arising out of that, post them in the comments to this, and I shall try my very best to answer them for you. So have a great rest of your Friday night and the rest of the weekend, and I will post a little video tomorrow. Have a very good evening.